Hi there, welcome once again to the Dukascopy TV studio. I'm Ben Jones. Alongside me today is Alexander Likhotal from the Green Cross. Alexander, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting. It's a rare opportunity because obviously the NGO people are not invited too often to address business community.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Now, can you begin for us by explaining a bit of background to your organisation? Where does your focus lie?
Well, Green Cross has been created almost 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago, and the reason behind that was that at that time the environmental matters seemed to be marginalized on the agenda, on the international agenda. Whenever anybody was talking about environment, whether it were the environmental disaster or anything else, it was brushed aside because humanitarian aspects were the priority. And at that time it was necessary to put the environmental matters on the agenda of the international community. And we tried to prove that there is a seamless web between humanitarian and environmental aspects, and that was the origin of the Green Cross.
Okay, now since the company started, since the organisation started, what impact have you managed to have thus far? What changes have you managed to implement?
Well, I would say there are lots of different achievements of the Green Cross during the 20 years. The latest one, as you probably know, a couple of weeks ago, finally the Convention of Transboundary Water Usage was adopted by the United Nations and ratified by the necessary amount of the countries. Green Cross has been fighting for the ratification of this agreement for 20 years practically. Green Cross has been very instrumental in the destruction of the chemical weapons. Practically, it played one of the lead roles in the process, together obviously with other counterparts. And I would say the major achievement is that today the international community at last has started to perceive that if you do not pay attention to environmental damage, then you are bound to face a tremendous impact on social structures of the societies, health of the people, and the humanitarian aspects.
Okay, now your organisation also has a particular focus on the increasing demand for the scarce natural resources. Can you outline some of the major issues with this area at the moment, and how are these being overcome?
You know, I think this is an oversimplification to a certain extent, because we are talking today about crisis. Ecological crisis, economic crisis, financial crisis, we're talking about climate crisis. You just name it and there is a crisis. It looks like it came out from the space. We are not involved. But in reality, it's not that something is wrong with the world around us. The problem is with us, with our eternal belief that we can continue shaping the world according to our needs and wishes. And you know that today the GDP of the world is roughly $60 trillion a year. In 20 years, it will be 200 trillion. 3 worlds sitting on the same resources we have today. That means that we have to do something about it. I'm not talking about, you know, that we should forget about consumption or whatever. This is ridiculous to speak about in our world. But without a real revolution with the way how we use resources, energy, we will never be able to resolve this situation. There are good ideas now in that area, like circular economy, decoupling, and lots of other strategic ideas that have started to be already operationalized today. And we simply have to do it much faster than we are doing. And that's what we're trying to promote, foster, and implement.
Okay, and finally, looking into the future, what projects does your organisation have on the horizon? Where will your focus lie?
It's an interesting question because we have strategic goals and we have let me say, tactical resources, what we're doing. Strategic goal is to facilitate the understanding that what we're facing today is not the single crisis. After all, everybody perceives that everything is separate, financial world from environmental world. It's all linked. And how many separated disasters you need before we understand that all of them are unified, are systemic. So we want the people to understand that we are facing a paradigm change. The civilization that has lived for many years, for many centuries in one way, is transforming now its attitude to production, trade, consumption, all spheres, economic spheres, existential spheres, all of them. So we try to contribute into that. That's strategic. And on the tactical level, we're working on the issues that in our judgment demand the most immediate response. For instance, the lack of water in the world. We are working in the distant regions of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, in the countries like Burkina Faso, Ghana, and other countries of that region, providing water and sanitation for schools in these areas. And so far, we have succeeded to roughly to provide schools with sanitation and water for roughly 300,000 school children. And that changes social atmosphere in the communities they live in, because they come home, they start to tell their parents that has been done in school. The parents start to ask questions. If that could be done in the school, why cannot this be done for our village? And it starts the creation of the civil society in these parts of the world. So we feel that it is extremely important. And of course, we are working on the continuation of other projects we have related to resources, energy, climate.
Fantastic. Alexander, once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Do make sure you keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV, as we'll be bringing you plenty more updates and exclusive interviews. Bye for now.